We will be carving our stamps into these pieces of linoleum, which is where we get the name Lino-Cut. It is a rubber-like material that creates a great stamp. You will either create a drawing of your animal or use a photograph of your animal to transfer onto your linoleum. This is a stamp I carved from the drawing you see here. This was carved onto pink linoleum, but the process is the same, and you can see how the image translated. I am going to show you how to transfer a photograph, but the process is the same whether you are transferring a drawing or a photograph. I am flipping the photograph over and using the side of a pencil to scribble over the whole back. I want to make sure there is a nice even coat of pencil over the whole back of my picture so that when I transfer my image, it transfers well. So make sure you are using the side of the pencil, not the tip of the pencil, and that you are covering the entire image pretty evenly. After that, you will lay down your picture on top of your linoleum. You do not want to move it around. You want to lay it down flat, and then you want to make sure that you are keeping it in place. You can use a small piece of tape to tape the picture down, or just make sure you are holding it in place carefully while you are working. Then you are going to take your pencil and begin tracing your photograph. Make sure you are paying attention to which details are important, what shapes are important, and where you want to leave things out. You don't need to trace every detail. You just want to pay attention to the important lines. So I am focusing right now on the outside shapes, basically the outline of the elephant. I'm going to make sure I get some of the wrinkles, some of the details, and anything else that I want to add into my carving. I'm not tracing the grass, I'm just adding my own little grass texture in a little bit. And then I can check my drawing. I am going to go back in and add a little more, and now I'm happy with it. So I am grabbing a Sharpie to trace the lines. The pencil will rub right off of your linoleum, so do not try to carve without going over it with a Sharpie first. And if you can, always do the Sharpie before you put it away. The pencil smudges off of the linoleum really easily, and then you'll need to redo your transfer. So make sure you trace all of the lines that you want. If you're looking at your transfer and there's a line you're not happy with, just ignore it because we are just focusing on our Sharpie lines when we carve. Make sure you double check your photo because I almost forgot my back leg and the details in my eyes. Once I am happy with my design transferred onto my linoleum, I am ready to carve. These are our Lino-Cut carving tools. They're kind of a U or V shape at the end, and they are sharp and can cut you. So it's important that you are always carving away from your hand. Notice I'm positioning my hand underneath the carving tool, and I am carving away from me. You always want to be carving directly away from yourself. You never want to be turning the tool and carving back towards you. So it's important that you are turning the linoleum as you're carving. Even if it's just a little bit at an angle, it makes it a lot easier. Also, make sure you are taking your time. Going fast can be dangerous, and it also makes it really easy to mess up. Now you will be using a bench hook, which is what we roll our ink on. You can see here that this often keeps you from having to touch your linoleum at all. It will just be held against the lip of the hook there. I still do brace my hand underneath sometimes to keep it steady. What you never want to do is this. You never want to forget to move your hand because it's very easy for the tool to slip and cut you. Here I'm just continuing to carve out. I am carving on all of my Sharpie lines and removing them. Notice that I keep turning the linoleum so that I am always carving directly away from myself as much as possible. I do have my hand on the linoleum, but I am making sure it is underneath and it is being braced against the top of the metal plate. You don't want to forget the details like wrinkles. You can use less pressure to get a skinnier line, and twist it a little bit for things like circular eyes. When it comes to the grass, I'm not following the lines. I'm just kind of putting in some texture again. If you are doing something like grass, you can do something similar. Grass is just kind of textured lines, so that's what I'm doing with my carving tool. Now, before I show you the next carving part, I am going to go ahead and show you a print. You can leave your printing plate solid like this and you will get a beautiful print, but there's also an option where you remove your background. So I'm going to show you what both of those things look like and how you can combine them, and then I will show you the next carving step. So here you can see that if you leave the background, it will create this really solid image where you see both the animal and the background printed in the color you chose. Now here you may be able to see that I've removed the background from around the elephant. So when I start rolling the ink over, you can see that it will pick up some texture in the background, but it is no longer going to create that solid print effect that the first one created. So this is a great way to get a beautiful print as well. It's really just up to you whether you prefer the solidness of leaving the whole background in, or if you like the kind of texture and openness of removing the background like you see here. You can also take prints with the background and then again without the background. So here you see I have a solid print and I am carefully lining up and laying down the plate with the background removed on top of it. The tricky thing is if you want to get a good effect, you really do need to line it up perfectly with the edges and the corners. So once I have it down, I am using a dry brayer to roll the back. And when I peel it up, I will see that this isn't going to get a good enough print. You can see that here. So I'm going to flip it over and use a wet paper towel on the back. It's still going to take a little bit of work, but eventually I end up with a pretty solid black ink print on top of the pink print. So if you choose to, you can take a few prints before removing the background and then still remove the background and print on top to create this two-color effect. This is called a reduction print because you are starting with one print, and then you are reducing your stamp by carving more away to create a reduction print. If you are choosing to remove the background, you are basically just going to choose one direction to carve in. So here you can see I am just carving straight up. I am starting at the top of the grass and I am either going up to the top of the printing plate or I am stopping when I hit my subject, which is my elephant. I am not only going straight up. You could see I went around the elephant a little bit there. I'm curving. You just want to choose one main direction. So it's okay if it's not perfectly straight lines, as long as I'm always carving up and down. Now here I am removing the whole background, but you could still choose to leave detail in your background or leave a little bit of a frame. After you decide between keeping your solid background, removing the background for a more open textured print, or experimenting with reduction printing, then you can go ahead and carve your plate. And then after that, we will talk about the process of making your actual prints.